As we get into this week, we start our player breakdowns, and there is no better player out there to start with than potential star outfielder James Wood. I'm going to tell you why he's going to be your next national superstar.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And of course, I'm your host, Ryan Clary. You can catch me over on Twitter at RyanClary11 and as well as our show page at LO_Nationals for all your latest Nationals news and notes. Make sure to check us out over on Twitter. And while you're at it, search up Locked On Nationals wherever you get your podcast. And of course, again, hit that subscriber button. Do whatever you want, but still hit that subscriber button, please. Later on in today's show, we will be discussing the ALDS and the NLDS, as well as you've got Yankees-Royals Game 2 today. You've got the Tigers facing off against the Cleveland Guardians for Game 2 as well. And the New York Mets and the Philadelphia Phillies are tied at 1 apiece as they head up to Citi Field in what is going to be a 5-game series on 100%. And it has been electric, to say the least. So we'll discuss that a little bit later on. In second segment, kind of get into some projections for James Wood, because I do think he will be the national superstar and kind of the face of the organization, you could say. The guy who's going to be an MVP candidate someday. That's how high I am on him. But what are his 2025 projections? I'll give you that in the second segment. But we're going to start off with discussing the 2024 season as James Wood made his debut in what was a very, very good debut for the kid here in DC. But this episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.com. Yeah, the right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your baseball rivals. Book today on Booking.com, the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball. Get the Booking.com app today. James Wood, when he made his debut earlier on this summer, the anticipation was real. Everyone and every Nationals fan out there was anticipating this from day one of the 2024 season. We were all kind of projecting, when will James Wood make his debut? Well, he made it earlier on this summer. In some cases, a little bit later than what we expected. Because you could have made the case coming out of spring training that James Wood was ready to be your opening day center fielder or left fielder or right fielder, whatever the case is, he was ready. And he proved that day one. Getting into James Wood's season, one of the more impressive things about James Wood, in my opinion, was his patience at the plate. When talking about James Wood, this time last year, his strikeout rate was up. His slugging, it was still pretty high, but still we all knew that there was some room for growth there. He had just turned 21 years old. He finished up the season in AA. He never got the call up to AAA that I was expecting at this time last season. But James Wood hit the ground running in spring training. He made some swing adjustments, and that was pretty damn obvious. James Wood has arrived. This season, in my opinion, was all about James Wood. It's not just about James Wood, I should say. It's also about C.J. Abrams and Dylan Cruz and all the other young pieces to this Nationals team. But James Wood in 2024 proved as to why he is kind of that unicorn type of prospect for this organization. He proved to me that this guy will be your MVP kind of candidate someday, hopefully not that far down the road. And I think the numbers do back that up. James Wood finished the season with a 781 OPS, batted .264, 41 RBIs, 9 home runs, and 295 at-bats. 14 stolen bases as well. James Wood sitting at 6'7". Think about that for a second. This 6'7" monster out there who weighs 234 pounds. This is going to be your future of the franchise. And in 2024, he proved exactly that. So in the first month of the season, he finished with a 690 OPS, a 357 slug, But even then, I think those numbers are a little bit tainted, in my opinion. He was a lot better than what those numbers indicated. And then we saw that in August as well. Because in August, he finished at an all-star slash line, batting .302, a .407 OBP, a .479 slug, and an .886 OPS on that August month. And in September, kind of met him in the middle there and was pretty damn good as well. The .767 OPS, a .446 slug, and a way less on-base percentage at a .321, batting .248 in that clip as well. The thing with James Wood here, I think he showed a lot of different things that you could kind of take and run with, including his patience at the plate, something that we mentioned earlier on. That was not something that James had last season. In fact, James was striking out at a much higher rate, even than what he was in his first few months in the major leagues this season. He was striking out at a crazy rate in Double-A last year. He made his adjustments, and some of those adjustments, in my opinion, were getting balls off the plate and splashing them in the other side of the field. A lot of the concerns about James Wood earlier on, or the quote-unquote concerns about James Wood, was the fact is that he's not pulling the ball. He's not pulling the ball into right field. He keeps on splashing it in the left center gap there. That was never a concern, in my opinion. In fact, if you were to give me one concern, I don't think there really is one at the plate. I don't. And I guess if you do want to nitpick, someone with James Wood's size and his power, in 2024, his rookie season, he's 21 years old. Yeah, you would have liked to see him pull the baseball a little bit more. But for the sole reason is because this guy has the power to put it 440 feet in the right field. He's got that power. We've seen it. You saw it at Citizens Bank Park earlier on this month when he crushed one and hushed the Phillies crowd. That is a real thing. But it was never a concern because that is something that you do not want him to let go of. In order to be in a superstar kind of MVP kind of talent, you can't just hit 40-plus home runs, which, by the way, he's got that power to do that. But a bulk of his home runs went the other way. I believe only 2 home runs this year went into right center field. That is astonishing for someone like James Wood and his stature. It's crazy. As far as all the concerns go with James, I would not consider that a quote-unquote concern. It just isn't to me. His patience at the plate was tremendous. And even then, getting into that, his strikeout rate this year, while it could come down a little bit, was still pretty damn solid. If he is putting up the production as a young 21-year-old, finishing the season batting .264, a .781 OPS, I'll take that any day of the week. Any day. And I think the power will come as well. Because again, 9 home runs over the course of a few months of the season, 14 stolen bases as well. James Wood has the potential to hit 40-plus home runs easily, in my opinion. And maybe someday down the road, I'll even throw out 50. That's the kind of power that this guy has. And we'll get into that projection a little bit later on here in just a few minutes, and you'll hear what I have to say about that. But James Wood, in my opinion, there should never be any sort of concern about this kid. His exit velocities were way up. And if you look at his charts, and really the zone charts in particular on Baseball Savant, a lot of this guy's hits in the upper echelon of the top left of the strike zone, he had a 108.7 exit velocity on pitches way up in the zone. James Wood likes it high, just like a lot of hitters do. But if he is going to continue to spray the ball the other way, and people are going to say, well, you should be concerned with that because he's not pulling it, he's taking what the pitcher was giving him as a rookie, as a 21-year-old puppy in Major League Baseball. That is no concern to me at all. And you shouldn't be as well. A lot of Nationals hitters in years past that have kind of not really lived up to expectations. Victor Robles, Carter Kieboom, big-time prospects like that who just have not really been that difference maker that we were expecting them to be when they were down in the minors, cannot do the things that James Wood just did in 2024. So if you think going into 2025, James Wood is not going to be a superstar, you should listen to this segment coming up next here because this kid is different. I'll tell you why I think he is going to be your next Nats superstar. Before that, I'm going to tell you guys about our friends over at Arena Club. And for most of us, like collecting cards, the idea of spending $2,000 or more on an Elly De La Cruz or Patrick Mahomes rookie card just isn't in the cards. I love collecting. That is some serious money to drop. Thanks to slab packs from arenaclub.com, now it's impossible to score gem mints for a fraction of their retail price. Every card that I listed was hit from last week's Arena Club slab pack drop, and Arena Club is the only repack that provides real value, a complete view of all possible cards, and clear hit rates for each one. I can tell you, I opened one of their slab packs and I got a Juan Soto Nationals card. And of course, I loved it because it is a Nationals card as well, but it was a rookie card from his 2018 breakout season. And Arena Club slab packs are revolutionizing the repack game with transparency. After your pulls are revealed, they'll immediately be placed in your showroom for safekeeping, selling, trading, or auction. Right now, you can get 10% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/LockedOnMLB and use code LockedOnMLB. That's arenaclub.com/LockedOnMLB, code LockedOnMLB for 10% off your first purchase. Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. So, how confident are you that James Wood will be your next superstar in DC? Think of that for a second. The Nationals have had a lot of superstar outfielders here in DC that they have produced homegrown talent with, including Bryce Harper, multiple-time MVP award winner, Juan Soto, who's up with the Yankees, both those guys making an impact in the playoffs already, James Wood. I'm not going to put him in the conversation of Bryce Harper and Juan Soto just yet. Those are two of the top outfielders in all of baseball. But James Wood is on his way. He is going to be your next superstar. And how confident am I on a scale of 1 to 10? I'm about a 7.5. James Wood in 2025, in my opinion, this will be the year of James Wood. That's how confident I am in this. I think James Wood, and talk about projections, we'll get into it shortly, but he does have real threat to become a 40 home run kind of guy, even this early on in his career. I think there are adjustments that will need to be made because we talked about it in the first segment. He did hit the ball the other way a lot. And if you are a power bat, the way that James Wood is, if you can start pulling balls to right field, how many of those 109 exit velocities that go the other way that are line drives, if he can get some loft under his swing there and pull it into right center field, how many of those are going to be home runs? My guess is probably about half of those will go over the bleachers at Nationals Park in right field. James Wood, in 2025, this is the slash line that I kind of project for him. I think he's going to bat 270, a 350-ish OBP, and a 480 slug, which will be an 830 OPS. Now, here's the thing. Some people are like, well, you're talking about this guy being the next superstar. That's not superstar numbers. But I'm not going to put him on the trajectory of a Bryce Harper or a Juan Soto just yet. James Wood still is raw, and I think that is the exciting part of him going into 2025. There are some things that he will need to fix. And again, I kind of talking outside of both mouths here, but when you hit the ball the other way, you're not going to expect as many home runs as a Juan Soto type. You're not going to expect as many home runs as a Bryce Harper or even a Pete Alonso type. But James Wood does have that power potential. If he does start to pull the ball You will see his slugging number well above 500. You'll see him hit 40 plus home runs. And you'll also probably see him get on base at a lot higher rate because pitchers will not want to pitch against this 6'7" monster. I can tell you that right now. How can you not be excited about James Wood in 2025? You can't. And I will say, over these first two segments, we haven't really mentioned where he'll be playing in the field. That is a negative part of James Wood's game in 2024. In 2025, though, I would like to see the Nationals maybe stick him in center field. That is where he is most comfortable. He did not look comfortable at all in left field. And I do always say this. I always preach this in my opinion. And it's one thing that I believe kind of sticks out of the Locked On Nationals podcast here. Baseball is a mental game. It is. You have to feel comfortable on defense, wherever you're playing, whatever your pregame meal is. It is a game of repetition. You have to get down your routine every single day. And I don't think a lot of people really mention this, but that is a big part of your first half season in Major League Baseball, is figuring out your routine. What worked for James Wood? What worked for Dylan Cruz? What worked for CJ Abrams? All those different things, they are still trying to nail down. So I think with James Wood, he just did not look comfortable in left field. I think the numbers indicated that as well. You saw in his first month of the season, it was relatively disastrous out there in left field. He did get better. And as he did get better in left field, also the numbers at the plate did improve that August as well. But I think with having a Jacob Young, a Gold Glove kind of center fielder out there, it is a little hard to replace him. I understand that. But James Wood is a way bigger part of the future of this fabric than Jacob Young is at this point. He just is. I would go into next season with the goal in mind. If Jacob Young is traded or whatever happens to him, I don't know at this point, to have James Wood as your center fielder. That is what I would like to see. Because number one, he proved down in the minors that he has got Gold Glove capabilities when he is in center field. And you also, by the way, Dylan Cruz in the right field, that's another kind of center fielder there that you are plucking into the corner outfield position, but that's a different breakdown for a different day at this point. But I think the comfort part of James Wood going into 2024, there's a part of me that just kind of thinks to myself about this, and you may think the same. If you were to put him in center field where he is most comfortable, where he has played a majority of his minor league games, what would his numbers look at the plate? Because it is a comfort thing with a lot of baseball players out there. But going into 2025, I gave you the slash line. I think James Wood goes for 30 home runs and 102 RBIs going into 2025. 30 home runs at the age 22. You'll take that any day of the week. Any day. Juan Soto type of numbers back with the Nationals. Bryce Harper. Guys of that caliber. I don't think James Wood is at their level yet. I think this season indicated that. But also he's got the potential to reach those kind of numbers. He has the potential to be an MVP candidate over the next few seasons. That's pretty easily, in my opinion. Because I think he can steal more bases than Bryce Harper. I think he can hit more home runs than a Juan Soto. I think he has some better extra base hit potential than both those guys. I don't think he was a better defender than what Bryce Harper was earlier on in his career, but James Wood, if you stick him in center field, you'll see the kid fly around. He can cover ground out there. He's got a solid enough arm, and he will make an impact really wherever you put him, except for left field. So in 2025, as we were saying, this is going to be the year of James Wood. And you're going to see him really take off this season, in my opinion. And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. There is playoff baseball going on right now. Let's preview that and recap the weekend that was. And again, you have got playoff baseball again at 4 o'clock today. We'll preview that. Before that, though, let me tell you guys about some of our friends over at Booking.com. This episode of Locked On Nationals is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.com. Booking.yeah. Explore those U.S. cities you always secretly wanted to learn more about. And of course, maybe Philadelphia or New York. Well, you can get that with hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com. You might just find your perfect stay even in your baseball rival city. Maybe it's time to taste your baseball competition stadium cuisine. Luckily on Booking.com, you can find the stadium stay that's just right for you. And Booking.com's wide variety of choices across the U.S., you can go incognito to all your baseball rival cities. Again, maybe you go up to Citi Field tomorrow up in New York, in Queens, and you want to see the Mets and the Phillies, and you can wear your Nationals jersey loud and proud. You can find a nice hotel deal, maybe with a bed and breakfast as well, to wake you up before game 4 of that series. And no matter what team you're rooting for this postseason, Booking.com can make you a fan of any U.S. city, and that is right, even New York City. So the right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, as you said, even your baseball rivals. Booking.com, Booking.yeah. Now let's tell you guys about some of our very good friends as well over at FanDuel. And of course, hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Yesterday, I had a little bit of a hunch that the Commanders would beat the Browns in the middle of the game, as they were, because they were just winning and they are on a steam rolling machine right now. I also had a hunch for a De'Ami Brown touchdown, and of course, that is what happened. I won some money with our friends at FanDuel, and of course, I had some fun while I was doing it, watching the Commanders kick some butt. And of course, tonight, the Saints and the Chiefs tonight. Maybe you think Travis Kelce scores a touchdown and Patrick Mahomes goes over his passing props number. You can do that and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That is guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Again, get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Again, visit America's #1 sportsbook. That is FanDuel.com. Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. So tonight, starting today really, during the afternoon, you've got Game 2 of the Yankees and Royals series. We'll have that preview a little bit later on, as well as the Tigers and the Guardians. But yesterday and really over the weekend, both these series in the NL are going to be nail biters. Last night, you saw the San Diego Padres tie a postseason record for home runs in a single game as they routed the Los Angeles Dodgers 10-2. They had 13 hits. Nearly half of those came in home runs, and it was an incredible showing for San Diego. Again, they are my World Series prediction sitting here today, but I do think San Diego will have themselves a nice handful against those LA Dodgers, because it's the Dodgers after all. And again, you've got Walker Buehler, who has been not so hot here as of recent, making his postseason debut for what seems like the first time in the last few seasons since he has been hurt. But the San Diego Padres have their ace on the hill. That is one Michael King. So that'll be a fun one tomorrow. And then, of course, tomorrow as well, you got the Phillies and the Mets. Aaron Nola versus Sean Manaea. I mean, if you're an NL East fan watching two NL East foes beat up on each other, there's good and there's bad. The good, one of them won't be here in the NLCS. The bad, one of them will. So we'll see how that plays out. But tonight, you've got Royals, Yankees starting at 7:35, and the Tigers, Guardians at 4:08. I think tonight will be the night of the underdogs. The Guardians and the Yankees are both pretty heavy favorites, but I think that both these teams can tie it up at 1 apiece. Cole Reagans for the Kansas City Royals has been lights out, in my opinion, over the last few months here. I think he gets right back on track against those New York Yankees, gives Juan Soto a little bit of a fit, but I think the big story to watch tonight will be Carlos Rodon for the New York Yankees. He's kind of had this up and down season. He's a little bit like the Patrick Corbin of the New York Yankees in a sense. He was that big left-handed pitching that they signed that they thought would help him win a World Series. Last year was a disaster for him. This year was very up and very down as well. A ton of peaks and valleys, but I think tonight you'll see a pretty damn good matchup between those Royals and the Yankees. But I've got both the Tigers and the Royals tying up the NLDS and the ALDS rather in tonight's matchup. So I cannot wait to watch it. Postseason baseball is the best, but we'll see what happens in tonight's game. So you enjoy postseason baseball, and on tomorrow's show, we'll continue to project the 2025 Washington Nationals and break down the 2024 Washington Nationals. We'll have that preview for you on tomorrow's show. But until then, enjoy postseason baseball. I'll catch you on the flip side. Have a good one.